The problem with aviation is not just the fact that there are about 30,000 aircraft in the sky. They're responsible for something around 2% of emissions, but they're emitted at 6 miles up in the air where they do maximum damage. So there is certainly a lot of questions to be asked of the aviation industry, and they need to start focusing again on delivering the answers that particularly in Germany and Netherlands, that the climate and the climate activists and the green parties there are looking for.
Yeah, because the low carbon aviation fuels that have been promised are probably a long way off.
Way off, yeah.
How soon do you think it is before we can see the Commission's proposals for higher levels of taxation on jet fuel to actually kick in and start having an impact on passengers' aspirations to take 4 or 5 flights a year?
It's an interesting one because it's probably hugely much bigger debate and a much more easy political debate in Germany and the Netherlands and Belgium than it is in the peripheral countries like Ireland, like Portugal, like Norway, where if you curtail travel, which is what you're talking about, return to high price aviation where only a small number of people travel by air, it does have a knock-on impact for things like tourism and trading and our ability to trade, our ability to our key industries like pharmaceuticals and software and of course agriculture, which is all over the news this morning. So it is a connectivity by air is not as big an issue in Germany and the Central European countries as it is in the peripheral countries. So what we have seen people in aviation in Ireland concentrate on is the fact that we have a newer fleet, that where the actual emissions, while they're still there, are a small proportion of what they would have be in prior to the latest technology that the A320 and the 737-800 introduced. That reduces the carbon burn to about 3 litres per passenger, which is something similar to a compact car. But the other thing COVID did was remove some of the big fuel guzzlers out of the sky, the 747, the Boeing 747, the jumbo jet of our childhood, a magnificent aircraft, beautiful to look at, but boy, it drank a lot.
The difficulty in balancing the economic issues here around tourism and the decrease in tourist numbers that might come from more expensive air travel is, it's an argument well made. But I wonder, in the current context of everybody seeking climate justice and the equal apportioning of whatever pain or sacrifice has to be suffered here, that the absence of taxation on jet fuel is just politically unsustainable.
We're not going to solve it this morning, Philip, but the straightforward answer to the tax on jet fuel is that the airlines will go wherever the tax is lowest. It's an issue that has, been well trashed out, and we've seen quite a few. It has evolved. It has evolved from that situation where it was absolutist arguments on both sides, which when I started covering travel, was pretty much the case, to much more engagement on the side of the aviation industry. The Corsair proposals that IATA put in place, the amount of time, energy, effort being put into sustainability by airlines, because they know they're against a wall on this, that they are disproportionate emitters of carbon. The developments on that have been pretty helpful. Whether it comes down to that sort of debate, whether we want to save the planet versus seeing the planet, or whether we can do both, I don't think we're going to solve that this morning, but it's a particularly interesting debate. I'll be I'll be travelling to a couple of conferences that will be discussing this. I will be travelling by air, of course, Philip, which probably to your ear's somewhat defeats the purpose.
Well, I think you're owning your hypocrisy up front, and as we were saying earlier on, we're all climate hypocrites by the very fact that we exist at all.